Stuck in the House. Congressional correspondent Chad Pergram says we should expect the House to try today to reapprove the coronavirus emergency aid package that we thought was passed early Saturday morning. After there were some technical changes that have now been made, the Senate apparently cannot start work on the bill until the House repasses it and sends it across the Capitol. This is Speaker Nancy Pelosi is talking of a third emergency response package. Joining us now is Florida Congressman Ross Spano. Congressman, thank you for joining us. Your colleague, Texas Republican Louis Gohmert, has talked about this process that we're in right now. He's kind of frustrated with us. I imagine you are. He says, quote, "This coronavirus is doing enough damage to people without Congress compounding the problem to rush through a bill and another corrected bill just to say we did something." How would you respond to that?
Yeah. Well, I have tremendous respect for Louis Gohmert. I happen to disagree with him on this one. From what I understand, the changes that have been made that are going to be made by voice vote today without the full body there are simply technical revisions and changes, and certainly with a piece of legislation that was negotiated over the course of 24 hours and heard in the House on Saturday morning early. It's expected. You're going to have some errors here and there, but it's nothing substantive as I understand it. So I'm not quite sure what the issue is.
Congressman, does this help small business? In 2008, 100 million Americans actually got some form of rebate check. I'm not sure that this payroll deduction and some of these amendments are going to actually help the small little guy.
Yeah, I think it will in the sense that, one of the mandates in the bill is that you have to provide paid leave up to 14 days for employees. And certainly small business owners were very, very concerned that they didn't have the ability to do that. And so the ability now for them to be able to get a credit on their taxes, quarterly tax filing, I think that's a significant benefit for small business. So I would disagree with you there. Certainly the entire environment that's going on with coronavirus, that's going to play a devastating role, I think, to small businesses. But this bill, I think, does address in large part the concerns that the small businesses had with regard to the requirement that they pay folks on leave that are suffering from the virus.
Congressman, this is Gary Kalpam. To stay on the small business, most people don't know there's over 30 million of them, and it accounts for over 99% of all businesses. Yeah. And I'm just looking at the numbers on coronavirus, and they're talking about June, July, August. If it goes that long, I can only imagine how many businesses are going to go belly up. What are you in committees talking about when it comes to that? And I know there's so much you can do, but this is some serious stuff because small business is the engine of this country.
No question about it. It's a great question. As a former small business owner myself and on the Small Business Committee, having served on 2 local chambers of commerce before I came to Washington, D.C., it's a really, really concerning issue for me. The best that we can do in terms of how we respond right now is to make sure that we're, as they say, pressing down this transmission curve and make sure it doesn't last until June or July, right? So take drastic measures right now if necessary to make sure that that doesn't happen. Beyond that, I think we'd think about things that have been proposed by the president, which would include, a payroll tax holiday for a period of time or abatement. I would even not even be opposed, quite frankly, to an income tax abatement. I know that's something that not many people have even talked about. But I think, let's figure out where we are in terms of what kind of an impact this is going to have on us before we look potentially at very, very draconian measures. But I will agree with you 100% that we've got to do whatever is necessary to support small businesses because they do make up a significant percentage of our economy.
But meanwhile, Congressman, we're hearing some pretty wild suggestions. I mean, Mitt Romney picked up Andrew Yang's idea of giving every American $1,000. We have Senator Schumer coming out. He says he has a $750 billion plan. We can only imagine what's in that. How do you pare back some of these wild spending plans?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to do is just to tell everybody to take a deep breath. I don't think that that's a plan that we should go with. I think, first of all, let's figure out what the nature of the damage is going to be. Let's take the steps right now to protect the American people, to spread the curve of the virus, which I think is taking place. The president's shown great leadership on that. All these things that are being proposed are things I think we should consider. I personally don't believe those are the answers at this point. But let's take a deep breath. Let's solve the issue right now that's in front of us, which is making sure that we press down this transmission curve by quarantining ourselves, not meeting in large groups, and so forth. But these are some pretty wild ideas that at this point, would not go along with, and I don't think they would solve the problem ultimately.
Congressman, you're already hearing from a lot of retail businesses, at least, that what they're doing is firing people so that they can get 2 weeks of severance and then be eligible for federal unemployment benefits, with the hope that they then rehire them at some point, 4, 6, 8 weeks in the future. Surely there's a better way for us to spend our collective funds, meaning we're going to spend the unemployment insurance regardless. Wouldn't it be better for them not to have to be fired and somehow repurpose the same money?
Well, I mean, I think that's a big assumption. You're assuming that people are going to be fired. Was a small business owner. I would never, ever, ever do that to an employee. So
I'm just saying, it is already happening. It's happening throughout New York and San Francisco and Seattle. Yeah. Restaurant industry, small businesses are laying off swaths of people. That's just happening.
Right. Yeah. Well, it may be happening in some instances. I don't think it's going to be a broader problem. I think that what we need to do is focus on what we can do right now, as I said, to curb the problem. And I think we'll have an opportunity over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks, to figure out what it is from an economic standpoint, from the standpoint of buttressing and supporting our small businesses across the country. We can look at all these possibilities, and it's certainly something I'm willing to think and talk about. But in terms of making those broad suggestions as to what needs to happen right now, I think it's a little bit presumptive, a little bit early, when we really don't know how things are going to fall out.
Congressman,
let's fix the problems right now. Yep.
We got to leave it at that. We thank you very much for coming in. We really appreciate it.